Rosalie is Chief Executive Officer of Women in Diplomatic Service Association in London, and she was President of the Victoria League and for Commonwealth Friendship and a London branch, and Chairman of the Malta League. Rosalie was lecturer at Diplomatic Academy of London at University of Westminster, and she is a government diplomatic academic consultant and advisor to various senior officials and government and international institutions. She is a Maltese government appointee engaging with the Maltese diaspora in Britain. So, Rosalie, you'll say more about your role in democracy.
Well, basically, you know who I am now. My organization, I think it's best to talk about that, was set up in 2002 by a group of our students, which included 2 ambassadors, female ambassadors. And their thesis was women in diplomacy, and of course they found out what we all knew, that women were underrepresented. And that's only 12 years ago. Today we have quite a high percentage of women even here in London, as well as in Washington and various other places. In the international organizations, the women's presence tends to be heavier. And if you want to be a woman minister or a woman diplomat, the best place to be at the moment is in Rwanda. They have the highest percentage of women in the world. So, you know, we have made an inroad, and sorry, thank you. What you did. We have made an inroad into the progress of women. I'm not sure that's having any effect. But basically, we exist to help women from countries of limited resources who are coming up to ambassadorial status to come to London. We run a course, a 2-week intensive course backed by the Foreign Office. And you have to understand that some of these women, although they're going to be ambassadors, they would never have even left a country or never been abroad. So coming to London, coming to the Foreign Office, meeting the person they've been dealing with online and sitting with them for lunch.
No.
It's not doing anything. It's that relationship, which would have been a virtual relationship online, suddenly becomes a personal relationship. And the goodwill message and the ripple effect of that encounter has enormous benefits. However, we're here today to discuss culture and democracy. And I feel personally that the best way to deliver culture is via diplomacy. Most governments these days are wanting to export their cultures, and especially within the EU framework, where a lot of countries have joined the EU, so therefore, in order to avoid the aspect of federalism, which the EU has been criticized for, the EU is encouraging nation states, member states, to protect and export their culture. Now, the only way one can do that is via diplomacy, because diplomacy is, your diplomat is selling your country and your policies. I'd go back to youth. Democracy is about demos, it's about people. And the people elect the government because it's the government by the people for the people. Now, what we are seeing in recent times, this is across the world, is a lot of young people want to get the vote, as we have seen recently in the Scottish referendum. Young people were saying we'd like to have a vote at 16. However, when people get to the age of the mid to late 20s, that interest in voting, in electing the members of parliament, is waning very strongly. And there is a certain indifference to parliament. Partly the messages I get is, oh, it doesn't make any difference as to whether I vote or not. And the other very heavy aspect I find is the lack of modernity in the voting system. I'd like to appeal to government ministers to make voting a little bit more modern to catch up with technology. In these days of iPhones and iPads and what have you, does one really have to take a day off to go and vote? It doesn't have to be for everybody, but for people like me who live outside London, I have to go and vote in my local school or whatever. And that means I'm going to be very late or have to take a day off from work to be able to cast my vote. Now, why would it not be possible? And I do understand and I realize there are a lot of security implications in this. But why should it not be possible to create a system where people can vote electronically through a phone, which is practically what we do everything by these days, or even through our home computers or whatever. So that is something that I feel very strongly it needs to be adjourned to modernity. It is effective, but it's outdated, I feel. The other thing about democracy, of course, is good leadership. People who vote for the leaders are aiming for good leadership. Now, if you don't have enough people voting, and especially if you don't have young people voting, you are not going to get good leadership, because the people who get elected may not have the backing of the people they're representing. And of course, good leadership comes with accountability as well. We heard the MP talking about accountability, and that again is a hallmark of good democracy. Basically, that is what I'd like to say, but I'll go back to culture in nearly all of its aspects can mostly be delivered through diplomacy, being the vehicle through which a nation can export its culture. And I would strongly recommend, and I saw here an article about the Egyptian culture. The Egyptian Cultural Institute in London has the best cultural institute I have seen all over the world. If you get a chance to go and visit it, it is a hugely successful and highly technological project, which I think, in my view, is very, very effective and very successful. It is fairly new, but it is a very, very good project. So thank you for your time.